I am Top Jimmy. Thanks for joining me. We are here with a Jam Session Radio interview. We have got our first repeat offender, Mr. Sam Spade of the Midnight Devils. If you're not familiar, we are huge fans of Midnight Devils. Those guys are out there bringing the glam, bringing the stomp, bringing the rock and roll to everybody, whether it's a pink boa, a green boa, who knows what Sam will be wearing. But those guys are out there touring the world, tearing it up, and we are happy to have Sam Spade back with us. Sam, how are you?
Top Jimmy, he is the king. It is good to be back, man. Thank you so much for having me. And as a repeat offender, I promise my best behavior.
Well, sometimes
you
we
can only
appreciate
you can only polish the stone so much.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. So it's been a minute since we talked. I think we last had you on in 2023. So a whole lot's going on.
Wow.
A bunch of stuff in the rock and roll world, probably some stuff, in our personal lives. Just wanted to say, hey, and hey, catch me up on what the Midnight Devils. I've been following you guys on your socials, and you guys have just been at it. I mean, you guys are still hungry.
First of all, I want to thank you for taking a chance on us back in 2003 and kind of setting this whole thing up. And I kind of feel like between the first interview and us meeting in Nashville and us meeting at M3, like we're kind of forming this friendship across the country based on rock and roll and radio and all these cool things. So I really appreciate that. We have just been doing what a great rock and roll band should be doing, which is being on the road, having fun. Our brand new record came out on July 5th, So Hard It Hurts. And the brand new single, Get Laid, out now on YouTube. We've been just out promoting that record, going to places we've never been. We a return trip to Australia. We went to Japan, went to the UK. We went to Norway. We did a tour in the US with Handsome Dick Manitoba from the Dictators. So life is good, man. Life is good.
Yeah, I mean, you guys, as a matter of fact, I think it was because you guys were out on tour with the Dictators. I was like, wait a minute, they got them back on my radar.
This was just Handsome Dick by himself.
It was just Handsome Dick. Oh,
it was a really cool lineup. It was Handsome Dick, Alex Kane on guitar.
Oh, wow.
Michael Butler, also from the Rock and Roll Geek podcast, on bass. And it was Scotty Slam on drums. And I can't remember the other guitar player's name, but one of the coolest tours we've ever been on with like this real living rock and roll legend. He sang with the Dictators. He sang with the MC5, and you're just like, this is the dude. This is Handsome Dick, right?
Yeah, and I think there's a new MC5. It's like I saw a thing about a new MC5 album getting ready to drop. So I think he's, you guys must have re-energized him. You got him back at it out there. I mean, and to me, that's one of the biggest things about meeting you guys and seeing you guys is you just exude this rock and roll energy. And for folks that saw the intro, I snapped some photos at the M pre-party back in May at Reckless Shepherd. And from the get-go, when you guys come out, I mean, not only are you, you have that look, you have that early 80s, you got that glam vibe, but you hit it and you bring it hard, and the crowd is just freaking mesmerized.
Yeah, and I think part of it is it's like I'm standing there backstage, which was not necessarily a backstage, it was kind of a room, like it was just behind the video wall. But my heart, as they're introing us, my heart's racing out of my chest, right? So the fact is that we are still every single day excited about playing rock and roll and excited about doing this job that we love so much. And so when we hit that stage, it's like you go from 0 to 1,000 just like that. And like the clock's ticking. So my whole goal is to leave everything I can possibly leave. I traveled a long way to get there. We jumped through all these hurdles to get there. All of our friends are there and ready to party. And people are now kind of expecting, when you see the Midnight Devils, name on a flyer or whatever, that this is going to be this massive party. And that's what we want to serve that up. Steak and potatoes every day. Let's go.
Yeah, and you guys do in pun intended spades, right? It's so amazing. So we talked last time about being hungry, right? The bands that are hungry, and it is obvious you guys have that hunger. I mean, your passports must have been burning up, right? As you were going through all that tour. It's just, I mean, you guys have been so many places.
We've done some things that I don't take lightly. Like I'm very grateful and done some things that bands only wish they could do, and people that only wish they could dream about. So I know that what we're doing out there is the right thing. I know we're on the right path. As long as we keep pushing and keep grinding, we're going to get to where we need to go, whatever that is, whatever the story of the Midnight Devils is. There's a lot of that story left on the table that we're going to explore all over the world. And so I think it's really cool that we get to go out there, and this music, not only the band, but this music kind of transcends culture, transcends language. Like there's these people that love this kind of rock and roll, this kind of energy, this kind of party all over the world. And so what we're trying to do is just like touch that spark on all these people that love this style of music, and just kind of reignite that flame and say, hey, there's still a band out there that wants to have a good time, doesn't take itself too seriously, is here for the fun.
I think that's a great thing, right? You mentioned the story, and that's one of the things, in the lyrics, you know, you guys tell a great story, a fun story, and it's set to music. And so, like, on the new album, I'm listening to the current single "Get Laid," right? I'm listening to that, and about, I don't know, maybe 2 minutes, 15 seconds or so in there, there's this guitar riff from Sniper that's just like, not only are we singing about just getting laid, but then all of a sudden there's this badass guitar riff in there that slips in, and then boom, it's like, I mean, it's you guys are like a time machine back to when rock and roll was the big thing, and I think that's so freaking cool.
Yeah, and I think it really is. It's the part of, we write all the songs based on what we see on tour. So all like we're the three best friends, and that's really how it is. Jimmy, Mess, Sniper, we're so close to each other because we've had to be. We no money, nothing. Like we're sleeping in hotels, like three guys in one bed. It brings you close as a family, as like this unit, and you're like ready to fight anybody and take on the whole entire world. Yeah. But it also lends to these really, really great stories and these incredible things, whether good or bad, they happen to us. And I'm just happen to be there with the notepad, writing it all down, going, this is going to be really funny later when we talk about this, right? We write about it on the album. I'm going to love this. I even have a good story. Like when we met each other in Nashville, right? Yeah. So there's a song on the record a brand new song called Rage. It's it's one of the tracks on the record. And it's like, I am the rage reawakened. Some of the lyrics, but that song came from our time in Nashville when we went and saw the Fifth, right? The Fifth were opening for Ron Keel, and we went backstage to see our friends in the Fifth, and Ron Keel's like, "You're Sam from the Midnight Devils." I'm like, "Whoa, Ron, it's so nice to meet you." And he's like, "You know what? This is my backstage dressing room. Get the hell out of here!" And he threw us out. And I was like, I was just like mesmerized, just like, wow, we just got thrown out of Nashville by Ron Keel of all people. And the story, it got my head spinning, and the story worked its way into the song, and boom, there we go, we got a song.
That's cool. So because when we first talked, I'd mentioned I'm outside the Raleigh area, and you're like, hey, there's a lyric in there, and right, sure enough, in Devil's Unstoppable, right? It's like, I spent a night in Raleigh, it lasted a month. I'm like, what's the story with that?
Well, I think we went to we were traveling on our way to start some tour with maybe Enough's Enough. And like, it took us 2 days to get there, and we were in Raleigh. We picked up Jimmy, and I think we all went out to like the strip club in Raleigh or somewhere around there, like just went out and just had a blast. And it seemed like the last summer tour we did in the States, we would hit up all these like random strip clubs on our nights off. Not necessarily for the chicks, but you just go in, you're like, we know there's going to be action. We know there's going to be trouble. We're going to laugh our asses off. So we always kind of try and go out and see where the fun's going to be, the action, and it's generally the strip club.
Oh, yeah. Right. Yeah.
And Raleigh must be a hot spot for it.
They got a couple of them. It's been a minute, but last time I was there, we double dated. It was a friend's birthday, and we were like, what are we doing for the birthday? Hey, we're going to the strip club.
Yeah.
It's like you said, it's a blast. You don't have to worry about, we're sitting at the Applebee's wondering what to do for the conversation. Right. There's action going on. There's fun. There's music.
Good and bad, no matter what it is.
Right. There's something. You're going to have a story, right? Yep. Like you said, you're going to have a story away from it. So, you guys have been to like Australia, and then Japan, and then you kind of strung stuff together, like, and you're like home for just a little while, and then you're back on the road. I mean, you guys are working it.
Yeah, we love it. And that's the whole thing, is now that we're back home, like as much as I love being back home, I love being in Nebraska. I love Lincoln. It's great. My family's here. we at the end of the day, like that kind of payoff for all the grind and the suffering and everything that you do back here, all the work
Yeah.
is the payoff is being on the road and kind of doing those shows. And we're, like I said, we're just a great rock and roll band that needs to be on the road. And that's really where we shine, is that you can kind of put out all the bad stuff, you know, the miles and the hotels and the crappy food. None of that matters to us. Like it's just awesome that we get to be out on the road singing our songs, doing the thing that we want to do the most. And the kicker is that we're like the managers of our own destiny. You know, like we control what's going to happen. There's nobody else. It's the three of us. And I love that feeling. And that it's just like us against the world, kind of take no prisoners attitude.
Yeah, and I kind of, from the outside, I kind of see you guys take a different approach, than some others.
Yeah.
I know some folks in bands, and some folks seem to kind of expect something's going to happen to them or happen for them. And you guys are
Right.
like, "Fuck it, we're grabbing life by the balls and we're going out and seeing where this goes."
Yeah. And
And
especially recently, I'm like, you know what? I don't care. I don't care. I'm not letting it hang over my head how many streams we have, how many views on our video, how many albums we sell. Like, I know that we put out a great album with a great video. And if people love it, I love that they love it. You know, it's just nobody's going to give you anything. So we're going to go out there and get it ourselves.
yeah, yeah, that is killer. And we'll definitely share the link. One of the other cool things that the Midnight Devils does is, all your stuff's got, probably get a glare, super cool graphics.
Hmm.
Um, you do a lot of merch bundles and you get cool stuff with it. Like I think I showed it off last time, right? You get, you can get a $69 bill. My wife got a brand new laptop. First thing happened to it, she got a Midnight Devil. She was like, "I need a Midnight Devil sticker. Go up to your
Yeah.
stash, grab the Midnight Devil sticker." Right. So she's got a Midnight Devil sticker on there. Um, you guys on your last album, you did a vinyl with a beautiful etch side. I
Hmm.
mean, those are things that not everybody's doing, and it's from the fans' perspective, for somebody to put out cool, killer, fun music, fun lyrics, great guitar riffs, killer drums, and 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 fun stuff, right? Like,
Yeah.
vinyl. Um, as a fan, I'm glad that you guys are out doing it, and so that what makes me and friends of mine that are in the streaming industry, like, wanna share that stuff and wanna get out there, and we're like, "Okay, where are these guys playing next?"
I think with this band somehow lucked out, but I think it really comes from our influences of, say, I love comic books and I love Kiss and I love the Misfits and these bands that had great images and
Oh,
great
yeah.
stuff where you could just stare at it and your mind wanders. So I go, man, half the battle is making these songs, half the battle is putting it on the road and being on tour, but the other part is that we have to have great images. Okay, cool. Let's make these characters. And so we've kind of come up with these
Yeah.
characters of this girl devil Roxanne, and then there's the pink bastard who is my cousin, who are these anti-heroes. So
Right?
they can do whatever they want, you know, like superhuman powers, but the story is limitless. So we can really, it's like whatever we think would be hilarious, we can have them do. Like if you watch the Get Laid music video, like it wasn't supposed to be like that. It wasn't a focus on the pink bastard. It was supposed to be a focus on the girl Roxanne, but the girl that we got to play the character kind of had stage fright at the last minute, so we had to rethink the script and
Yeah,
write the
yeah.
thing on the pink bastard. But we had these characters already involved, and I was just like, that's too perfect. Okay, what are we gonna have the characters do next? Like, what is gonna be the next thing? And so with Get Laid, there's a dance single that's going to be coming out. You're taking like that influence of the strip club and shaking ass
Okay.
all the time. We're going to do Get Laid dance single, but it's going to be a vinyl of like a 7-inch vinyl single release
Nice.
as well as a streaming release, just because we don't have one yet. And that's the
Right,
thing.
right.
I'm a fan too. I'm a collector. I want these things. I'm like, why don't the Midnight Devils have a 7-inch single? Nobody needs a 7-inch single, but we don't have one yet. So we're going to put one out.
There you go. I mean, you guys put out cassettes. I mean, you guys
Yeah.
you guys have done it all, and I think you hit on something that I hadn't really thought about, and that's the imagery. That's missing a lot from these
Hmm.
days. I mean, there are folks that put out an album that the music is fine and the cover is, somebody sitting, by the beach. It's like,
Yeah.
that's a nice image, but you look at it once and you're like, yeah, okay, right, and then you go on. Whereas, right, when you guys are doing stuff, it might be a big ass poster. I
Yeah,
mean, you the person is drawn in to look at, okay, what's going on here? Who's this
yeah,
character? What's going on here? What's the interaction here? And I think that helps create a connection
yeah.
on a deeper level than just, okay, there's my artist sitting, on the beach staring out at the distance. That's, I think
We're very,
that
we're very blessed to have a great artist. Her name's Livy Ulrich. She's our art designer, and she kind of like, so I'll be sitting there, and I'll go, oh, this would be a really great idea, and I'll sketch it out, right? Stick figures, pen and paper. I'll sketch it out and go, this is my idea. And she's like, I totally got you. Don't worry about it. And she'll turn it into this giant, this big piece, this work of art, this beautiful thing that was exactly like, maybe it's a devil roasting hot dogs or something I think is funny. She'll turn
right,
it into this really cool work of art where it bridges that gap between like music and art, and kind of stimulates your mind to just start wandering. And I love that. And I think that goes back to our love of maybe vinyl, and reading the liner notes, and
yeah.
trying to collect every piece of whatever band memorabilia that we could ever possibly find, the days before internet.
Right, right. Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's one of the things that's lost, and so it's,
Yeah,
uh, like you're saying, that you got the memorabilia, you've got the things, and it's cool because there are folks that are just discovering that stuff, right? They kinda grew up in the digital age, and so all they had was something on their phone, and now
yeah.
some of them are starting to discover, wait, there's something that's tangible, there's something besides this little, 1 by 1 square on my phone showing the album cover art. I can get into it, I can get involved, I can be drawn into it. And I think that adds to the art of the music itself.
I do too.
And
I love that stuff. That
it
and it's like maybe growing up like just surrounded by posters. You're just staring at
right?
the posters on your wall, and like your background looks a lot like my background. Where it's like, man, but that's the way it is. That was the way
Yeah,
it always has been. There was never any deviation. You covered your walls with all your favorite posters.
right, right. Yeah, yeah, and it's just I think I'm hoping there's a partial rediscovery of that. Folks are starting to grasp that it's more than, the little black mirror, as Netflix likes to call it, on their show that you got in your pocket. Um, so you guys hit Japan for the first time?
Yes, yeah. Did 8 shows in 10 days.
That is rocking it. So I've heard stories of people that have visited and said, Japan is it's super cool, but it's different. Is that the case?
It was almost a completely new world to us. There's no trash. There's no litter. There's no crime. Everything is beautiful. And the thing that messed with us is we did 3 weeks in Australia. We played our last show in Australia in the afternoon, jumped on a plane, and flew to Singapore and then to Japan. And then later that night, we had another show, our first show in Japan. So there was never like any time to kind of get acclimated. It was just like go, right?
Right.
So I was real nervous. Like, man, we've never been in this country before. We don't even speak the language. How are they
Yeah,
going to
yeah.
know to come to our shows? And it was from the get go, our music and the whole idea of the Midnight Devils was welcomed with open arms. And so they kind of took us in, and the shows were great, and every show had at least 30 people in them, and the venues are all tiny, but they stayed till the bitter end. They're there early, stayed till the bitter end, and just love this music. And I was like, if we can get in front of people, I think we're going to be good. And it worked out so much better than I ever anticipated. The biggest shows were in Tokyo, which is the biggest city in Japan. Like
Yeah,
we're
yeah.
playing Tokyo, and these shows are
Right.
and they don't even speak any English. So you'd be like, "How you doing out there, Japan?" And they wouldn't understand. So it's
Right.
like I had to rethink the game and bridge the gap, the language barrier gap, and work with my face and do everything had to be emotions and really big,
Okay.
so that it kind of transcended what we were doing, so that everybody could understand. It was really really cool, and like you rode on the trains to every show. You don't drive, so you load up. You're carrying walking around on the trains with your guitars and everything like that, and then after show,
Right.
full makeup, back onto the train, back to the hotel. It was
That's cool. Yeah.
wild, but really awesome.
That's very different for an American. That's a lot of the world has transportation by, train between major cities and in Europe and between countries. I got some friends that are like, hey, I'm going over and I'm going to be I'm going to be going into Germany, and then I'm catching the train over to Austria, then I'm catching the train to here, and they can bebop around that way, and it's super cool. I think from the imagery that we were talking about, that probably hits really well with that Japanese audience as well, because
Yeah,
they are really into that. So
it
it's I'm
absolutely it absolutely did. And what hit me the most was the smiles coming back and the way that they couldn't understand what I was saying initially, but they would mimic everything I did with my hands. So if I did my hands like this, they would match it back almost to the point where like everything I did with my hands, they would match me. And so I knew that they were having a good time, and they were
yeah,
out on stage. And at the end of the whole thing, they presented us with like these Japanese festival shirts, right? I've told the story a million times, but our tour manager comes back. He goes, these people, they love you guys a lot. They wanted to say thank you for coming to Japan. Here's a bottle of sake. We don't really drink, so but you can't say no, But they
right.
go, here's also these authentic, traditional Japanese festival shirts, and they got us 4 of them, and we put them on, and we're like, this is it. Like we made it. Like we did what we came
Yeah.
here to do in Japan. Last show, wearing our shirts. It all came together like right there in the middle of Japan. I was like, perfect. We did it.
That is
It was
awesome.
like Kiss in 1978.
Yeah, I mean, that is awesome. And then, right, from Japan, did you get a break, or did you just keep on trucking?
Well, we did 2 weeks off to kind of basically go home and do our laundry and make a
Right.
little bit of money and kiss our family, and then we shipped off to the UK straight away.
Wow. Oh, yeah, you guys did, like, almost a month in the UK or something?
Yeah, it was 2 weeks, 2 weeks in the UK, 2+ weeks in the UK, and then about a week in between for Norway. So it's about 20 days altogether. But the UK
Whoa.
was our third time there, and let me tell you, like the idea the blueprint was you just keep coming back, right? You just keep
Right,
forcing it
okay.
down people's throats, and
Yeah.
it'll work. And the shows were all packed. And I'll give it to our headlining act, Kick and Valentina. They've been coming there for a long time too. Another great U.S. band. But between the two of us, the rooms were packed. The festivals were going crazy. Like we had taken, it almost felt like we had taken the country by storm. And it was the tour that everybody in the underground rock and roll world was talking about.
Oh, that's cool as hell. Yeah, and the guys in KV, they are a lot of fun.
They're a
We've
blast. Yeah.
Yeah, they put out stuff, what was Star Spangled Fist Fight?
Yeah.
That was the tour for that album. Those guys are fun, Jimmy and
And
DK and the guys.
they're a really, really good band. We matched really well with them. So my whole goal was that to make them want to, I wanted them to watch us and go, damn, now we got to really step up the game, which is
Yeah,
hard for them, because they're a great band and they bring a lot of energy. DK's really good front man. So I had to like kind of push it over the edge a little bit. I had to
right.
really lay on the gas pedal, which wasn't a problem, but I really wanted to make sure that like they knew they'd have their work cut out for them every single night of the tour.
That's cool. That's cool. Yeah, because you don't want them the tour wrapping up with them going, "Well, those guys were okay." You
Right.
want them going, "Those guys fucking kicked ass," right,
Yep. I want them,
Yeah,
and it makes the show so much better where the energy is so high. It's like from the starting point, the starting blocks, the energy is already on 10. And so by the time Kicking Valentina comes on, like everybody's just going crazy, and the show ends, and we're like, what just happened? It was like a hurricane came through here, and the whole place
nice.
erupted. It was really, really cool and
That's what you
amazing to
want,
be
right?
part
That's what you want. You want a rock
of.
and roll eruption,
Yes.
not to steal a line from Eddie Van Halen, but yeah, you want that energy. And so then you guys got is it because maybe you've toured the Australia, but you guys signed with an Australian record label, right?
Yes, and it was because we toured Australia that they were our initial. What was it, 2023? Maybe we did our first tour in Australia, and we were supposed to be opening for Alex Kane, or not Alex Kane, but Donnie V from Enough's Enough.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Donnie V kind of bailed out, and they said, "Why don't you guys come over anyways?" And it was the record label said, "Come over, we'll make it work." And they were big Kiss fans, so the owners of the label and I got along really well, and we kind of had a lot of the same ideas. So we thought, what better way to start this tour than when we fly into Australia for the second time? Our record's there, it's released, and it's ready to rock. We're going to be there for a month, and we're going to sell this and promote this new record. And it worked out perfectly. The records were there, they looked good, everything's on board, and it was just great.
Yeah, that is so cool. And it goes to show you, like you were talking before about becoming friends, and you've got
Hmm.
this rock and roll community. You've got this worldwide rock and roll community. I see situations that are now starting to happen to me since I've been getting out a little bit and meeting more people and whatnot. So the missus and I went to a show in Gatlinburg at the end of August. And we really hadn't got into town. We were just coming to town. We decided the first thing we're going to do is we're going to hit the
Strip club.
grocery store
No,
and grab we're gonna hit the strip club and, empty the whole wallet. We hit the grocery store, we picked up some crap at the grocery store, we're walking out of the grocery store, and I hear somebody go, "That's Top Jimmy." I'm like
whoa.
I'm like, "I think I thought somebody was like, I'm just hearing things, right?" So we'll walk a little bit forward, and it's like, "Hey, Jimmy." Turn around, and sure enough, right, it's a guy that I met at N3 Rock Festival.
Wow.
We're not even in town yet, and he's and it's like you build that community, and you start to recognize people, and it gets to the point to where you've got this family that, you can almost once you've been to enough shows, you can almost pick up and go anywhere, and you're gonna find somebody that you've met. Maybe you don't know them real well yet, but somebody you've met somewhere, and it just is amazing that the community that develops, and people look out for each other, and people share with each other, and people are like, "Hey, have you seen so and so? Have you seen this band? Have you seen that band? Oh, make sure you get over there and see the Midnight Devils because those guys are gonna kill it." And that kind of thing, I think, is so cool.
And
The
especially
the word of mouth.
with podcasting almost becoming like the new rock and roll radio,
Yeah,
that it's like there's such a close-knit community with the podcasters and the bands, and it's like I'd almost rather talk to you than any radio DJ ever, because I don't really think they even care. Nobody cares. The radio DJs are kind of like Clear Channel and this and that, and they do it
yeah,
for wrong reasons. This is the right reason, and it is become that who you meet, who you know, and then who loves the same thing that you do.
right, right. Yeah, you get that overlap, and yeah, there were a couple podcast folks that we were in Gatlinburg. It wasn't a podcast thing, but there were a couple people turned around. It's like, hey, Chris from Rock and Pod happened to be there, and
Was
Aaron
that the
Camaro from
Monster
Rock
on the
and
Mountain?
Pod. Yeah, it was the Monsters on the Mountain.
Cool.
That was a cool experience. It was our first time going there, and it was fairly intimate, and there were people that we were talking and hanging out with, and it became one of those things that you're just it's hard to explain for folks that maybe haven't experienced it. But like you're saying at a show, right? You and the audience are one entity, and it's the same
Cool.
kind of thing that you become a family with the people there, and a family to some of the folks in the bands you get to know fairly well, and even ones that maybe you don't think you know really well. I'm looking down the hallway, and there's a guy coming to me, and he's wearing a cowboy hat, and I'm like, oh, that's Scotty from Dangerous Toys, and he's coming forward. I'm like, hey, Scott, how are you? He's like, hey, how have you been? I remember talking with you. Da, da, da. I'm like,
Wow.
it's just cool, you know? And I think those relationships, like you said, you keep going back, keep going back, you keep going back. And now, right, the UK, those guys, I'm sure, are loving the new album. I'm loving the new album.
Mhm.
I I thought the last album was amazing. I had probably 5 songs on the last one that I thought were terrific, and I'm like, okay, it's always hard to I think it's hard to match that, but not
Yeah,
for the Midnight Devils. Not for the
that
Midnight Devils. I mean, I'm like, To the Hard Way, Get Laid, Devil's Unstoppable, Rage, um, all killer stuff. They are. Yeah. Probably if I were to check the play count, it's probably like 50 times I've played
and
those songs.
that was the hard part, was like that was the pressure that we were under. Like, okay, but I had to rethink it. Like when we're going into the next record, like, okay, this is the third record. Put pressure on yourself. It's do or die time. No, no, no. All we have to do is continue the story and
Yeah,
just not make a worse record than we did, right? Okay, so cool. We can write rock songs. That's great. What's our idea? Let's just keep this story going. And a lot of what made this So Hard It Hurts better than the last one was our production team, consisting of Rick Browdy, the guy that did Poison. He did the Ted Nugent record, Double Live
yeah, yeah.
Gonzo. And then we had Cher Ross from Vixen and Bam Ross from Dogs to More. We were all secluded down in Florida, like almost a country away. with these songs, all three of us, and then the three production team, and we just were like, we trimmed the fat and made them into great rock songs. And it's like,
Oh
we're not
yeah.
inventing the wheel. There's enough wheels out there. We're just gonna make this wheel like burn. We're just gonna
Right.
light this wheel on fire and let it burn and see what happens.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. And like Shock the World. I mean, that's another
Yeah.
one. I mean, it's like I'm digging the album,
Thank
and I
thank
think anybody that listens to it is just they're going to have a blast. And if they can come out and see you guys somewhere, I think that that's always the icing on the cake.
that
And
is the game changer. It's like what do these guys have in store? And I know it's always going to be ridiculous, and I know it's going to be funny, and there's going to be people laughing, but it's always that question mark. Like I said, you put the Midnight Devil's name on the thing, on the flyer, and people are gonna come out because they know something is gonna happen. Whatever it is,
yeah,
good or bad, something is gonna happen. There's
yeah,
gonna be a
yeah,
story for the next day.
absolutely. And that's the way, right? I think we've probably seen you guys live maybe 4, maybe 5 times, but
Mhm.
I'm still that way. I'm like, I cannot wait to see this Midnight Devil show. It's like I love every one of them, but it's like each time a new one comes up, I'm like, I can't wait to see this Midnight Devil
Yep.
show.
And
It's
like,
just
I'll even give you like a little slice of what like my mind's spinning, because we got our next show's coming up. We got a little time. Our next show's in December 7th, Cincinnati. It's this big festival, Kenny Ozfest. We played it last year. 500 people sold out. It's awesome, right in the middle of December, which is unheard of. But I go,
right.
what can I do that would be absolutely ridiculous? I think we need to get giant inflatable beach balls that have the Midnight Devils logo on it, so that at a certain point in the song, I can just kick 5 or 6 giant beach balls out into the audience, and then people just start hitting them around,
Yeah,
right? That's old school rock and roll, old
right.
school. And so they already made them. The guy's like, I already got the beach balls ready to rock. We're good to go. So then I'm thinking, well, like, what's going to happen with these beach balls? Like, are people going to go? Who knows? That
Right.
that that's like our next thing is these giant beach balls that we're going to do.
Yeah. And that could be a story, right? Something happens to this beach ball. Where does it end up? Where does it go?
That's
Yeah.
right.
Yeah. Yeah. Killer imagery. So you got a show coming up in December. You got any big plans cooking for next year?
Yeah. So that is the massive question, and it's kind of the thing that's weighing on my mind the most is like we did all these amazing things on and checked off so many boxes in 2024. If you had talked to me in January of 2024, I wouldn't have told you that we could accomplish any of this. Like an album, I didn't think was possible. A tour of Australia and Japan, I didn't think was possible. UK, I didn't think was possible. But we did it all. We got the
Yeah.
credit card receipts to pay for it. And so, what do we do for the next one? How do we top ourselves? I don't think it's really topping ourselves. We just got to keep that kind of that attitude and that electricity and that excitement rolling. What we haven't done is we haven't done a US tour. So right now we're putting together all these ideas of a US tour, coming out and seeing everybody, seeing all of our friends that we haven't seen since 2023. And it's been
Yeah.
a long time. So I think like a giant US party with some great because there's so many great bands coming up right now.
There
All these
are.
these amazing bands, but nobody's giving them a shot. We
Yeah.
need to align our stars, put it all together, and go out on the road and flip everybody the finger and says we're going to do it our own way. We don't need gatekeepers. We don't need any of this. We're just going to come out
Just
and
do
play
it.
great rock and roll. And that's the testament. And what I noticed in Australia, it doesn't matter. People don't care, about all these subgenres and new metal and modern metal and all this. No, people want to listen to great rock and roll music, get messed up, have a blast, walk away. That's what it is. And so I really think that is our bread and butter right there, what we do best. And we're just going to be bringing that over and over again. USA, UK, Australia. It's all in the works for next year.
Sweet, sweet. So one of my things is to make sure we see the Midnight Devils somewhere outside of Maryland because we always
Mhm.
seem to see you guys up in Maryland. So that's one of the things that I want to try and do is be like, hey, uh, right, you guys are out there and touring around, and we love meeting people. Myself here with the station loves meeting people and introducing people to the different music. But I also just get a charge out of seeing a band that I love, maybe in a different light, in a different
Yeah.
aspect. That's happened a couple of times to where, we're originally from Maryland. We moved, and the band, we see them somewhere else, and it's like, there's some aspects of the show that are the same, but
Yeah.
there's a different crowd dynamic, right? And it's so cool to see things start to line up and start to click. And I would love to see people basically hearing the gospel of the Midnight Devils and just watching them like freak the hell out over the amazement that's going
What
on.
we need is the jam session live from Japan, following the tour, reporting every day live from Japan. That's
There we
what
go.
that's what we
There we go.
that's
All
what the
right.
people want. They want
Goals.
the stories, but not from me. They want it from somebody, an unbiased witness.
Yes. Yes. I have to, what do they call it? I have to manifest that. I have to
Right.
manifest that and make it happen. Cool. Um, Thank you so much, Sam,
Yeah.
for hopping back with us. I know I'm not sure what might be in your plans. I know our plans. We are going to be at Rockin' Pot again. So if you guys are, in the Nashville area, I think it's like the second week of April, we'll be sure and find you. But we want to share. We'll be sharing the flyer for that December show.
Sure. Thank you.
That sounds like a killer show. Cincinnati, right? Cincinnati rocks. That's
It's
a
a
killer location.
great city, a great venue, and known for their chili cheese dogs.
I've heard that.
They
I
were
have
great.
not
Yeah,
had any
that's
there.
awesome.
Who knew, right? Right?
Yeah,
It's
right. I
it's
didn't
funny
know I
what
have any idea till last year. Chili cheese dogs.
yeah. So we'll be looking for, keeping up with your activities. We'll be sharing stuff out. We wanna make sure and point folks to themidnightdevils.com. Go hit them up, find some merch. They've got some great bundles. You can get CDs, you can get vinyl, you can get T-shirts, probably still some hoodies. There might be some cassettes left. If it's not there, let Sam know, and,
Right.
I'm sure
We
I'm sure
got
he'll
brand
manifest.
we got lighters, and we got what are the new ones? Oh, patches. They're like a 4-inch patches. I think they're the coolest thing ever.
I gotta go look for those because I just got a new jacket that is
Ah,
still
I'll
virgin,
send you one.
and
Don't
I
even worry about it.
and I gotta plot it out, and I gotta make sure there's a Midnight Devils patch on there.
They're cool. They're
Cool.
really
Well, thank you, Sam. Keep on
thank
rocking,
appreciate it.
and we will keep sharing your stuff.
That's why he's the king, folks.
Ooh, Top Jimmy. Thanks, brother.
Yes, thank you.
Bye-bye. So that was our second interview with Mr. Sam Spade. We love him to death. Catch him out there. If you are anywhere near where they might be playing, you will not regret going to see him. Huge show, great stage presence, amazing rock and roll, leaves you wanting more. And like I said, we've seen him probably 4 or 5 times, and every time I see him on a bill somewhere, I am like, I cannot wait. It's like you don't get tired of it because it's always a rock and roll party with Sam Spade, Sniper, Jimmy Mess, and the guys from the Midnight Devils. Keep on rocking. We're here at jamsessionradio.com 24/7, sharing the best 80s, 90s, and today's rock, metal, glam, and more. Keep on rocking.